What are your views on the impact of COVID-19 on the business and economies of the different countries of the world?
Uh, since you mentioned two separate aspects, that is business and economies, I like to treat them separately. Of course, they are business is one part of the economy. Uh, let's say business, I think world over is impacted. On the demand side, there is problem. You know, people are in the lockdown condition, minimal they are buying, and the malls are not operational, airlines, tourism, that is down. Most of the sectors that you see, they are not operating or operating at suboptimal levels. So on the demand side, I think the demand has taken a beating. On the supply side, if you see, because of the lockdown, the people are not able to reach the factories, or the logistics are in complete breakdown. So raw materials availability, even if raw materials are there and factories are able to produce, then goods are not able to reach the sales points. Distribution is a problem. So right now, as far as businesses are concerned, both the demand and the supply side, they are taking a beating, and this is a trend world over. Now, coming to economies, where you look in at the unemployment and other factors in the economy, layoffs and pay cuts are becoming very popular things that companies are talking about. So there is historically the highest level of unemployments in most of the countries, and which are rising. All that needs to be seen is that we are in this pandemic situation, and how long this pandemic we are able to control. It all depends on that. Now, if you take the economy per se, the GDP, the global GDP, which is at $86 billion, of which say 25% is coming from manufacturing, almost 65% is coming from services, and then balance 10%, let's say, is agro based by and large. So on the manufacturing front, we have already lost the two. We are into the second quarter. 2 quarters are lost. So if 25% is the manufacturing, and there are two impacts here. One is the quantity impact, and second is the price impact. So if you look at different sectors of the global economies, crude is one part. So where the quantity will be reduced here, the price will be reduced this year. So almost the crude prices are down by 25% as compared to 2019 levels. World over, agro prices are also down. Uh, Production is down. So if 2 quarters are wiped out, of course, the IMF estimates are that the global GDP will be down by 3%. Most of the economies in the world are going to be recording a negative growth. Of late, experts are saying even Indian economy will be recording a negative growth. So I think depending upon how much time we take to overcome this pandemic, that will decide the actual number. Nobody can actually accurately, predict how much the economies are going to be impacted. But one thing is certain, that everyone is going to feel the pain. Unemployments are rising. The purchasing power is going to be deeply hurt, and it will take some time for the demand to come back, maybe 2, maybe 3 years. But it all depends on, as humanity, how quickly we overcome this challenge. And so yes, businesses are going to be hurt, facing the pain for a long time in every country. uh, India has locked down everything, and the industry has been hurt. But some of the countries which are smaller, like Sweden, Japan is of course much bigger than India, but there they have not really locked down the industry. So a lot of countries are now realizing that we will have to live with this virus, and there's no other way but to you know take care of both the lives as well as the livelihoods. So some countries have continued to operate. Some countries like India locked down everything. So the impact all over is the same. There is negative growth and there are pain, there is unemployment, the demand side is impacted, the supply side is impacted, the supply chains, the international supply chains have been disrupted, and there is going to be relocation of supply chains. So these are some of the common factors. Where what is different now is where, let's say, India is a domestic demand based economy, where we do not really export much as percentage of our our GDP, whereas other countries, the other countries which are having the similar, India is about 2.7 trillion economy, and let's say, the other similar economies are like UK and France and Italy, which are of the similar size. But again, if you see the exports from these countries, Germany is higher, around $4.5 trillion. But these are very international export based economies. Their share of exports is much larger. China exports almost, I think, 15% or of their product produce. The global manufacturing share, that is. Now, these countries are going to be feeling the pain much more because of the tariff barriers. There are going to be, resistance to imports, and every country, our own Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, is talking about Atmanirbhar, program, and the self-reliance is a word which is getting into the mindset of most of the countries, and therefore, the international trade will be impacted. So the countries and economies which are mostly, let's say, developed countries, which are doing a lot of exports, will feel the pain a little more than, let's say, India. India, I think we will have the major challenge of overcoming this pandemic. Then all the SOPs and, the economy revival strategies, if they succeed, the government succeeds, I think we have potential to feel lesser pain than other countries, but only time will tell as to what is the magnitude, first of all, of the pain due to coronavirus, what are the challenges that get created once, this controlled lockdown, which is there right now, is lifted in a controlled way, and what is the impact on numbers, and how India faces the challenge of saving the lives and, reigniting the economy. Let's see. Uh, it's a big challenge for India. If we face that challenge, then I think our country is a better space, because we are pretty much domestic consumption oriented, and unlike, let's say, France or Italy, which is having major exports, country like Poland, Spain, we will face the less we'll face lesser pain. But then migrant labor going away to the homes, I think that is going to cause a lot of pain for country like India, because a lot of states in our country and the industry in that state is run by the migrant labor. So I think some faults are there, because we should have concentrated more on seeing how we keep migrant labor safe, well fed in the industrial area, and provide better living conditions to them, uh, rather than just creating a situation that got created eventually, which was painful for them, and they wanted to go back home, and rightly so, they wanted to be with their families. But that's one, I think, big challenge that has gotten created, and it is going to take a lot of effort now to get the migrant labor back to the working area, because today the supply side is also going to have problem, because today industry has raw materials because logistics have been taken care of, but now the workforce isn't there. And particularly, let's say, states like Gujarat, even Maharashtra, you know uh, these are and a lot of other states, Punjab, etc., they are all heavily dependent on migrant labor. and that is going to be a challenge. So that is going to impact businesses in the future for India. But foreign countries don't have that much of a problem of this nature. So they are going to be impacted more because of exports being, affected and the demand being affected. So yeah, that is how I see things, getting the pain being faced in different parts of the globe.
How will be Indian government's package of 20 lakh crore beneficial to the industry?
I think a lot has been said and written about this in the media already, because you see, one of the biggest conclusion that has been drawn already in the media is that 20 lakh crore is actually the incremental benefit to the industry is only to the tune of 2 lakh crores, because some of the benefits in the form of liquidity, etc., which have been already given by RBI, have already been included in this, and that was about 8 lakh crore, which is already injected and infused by RBI. Now, what India is doing differently from the other countries is that it is combining the monetary and the fiscal benefits together. Most of the other countries have not done that. For example, USA, if they are talking about close to $3 trillion package, I mean, that's not including what the Federal Reserve has given. So what the government has really given in India is only 2 lakh crore. Now that is the estimate. That's not my estimate. That's actually the estimate of some of the experts like Barclays Bank, for instance. I think that is the figure that has come out from their experts. So 2 lakh crore, then, right now we are in a situation like which is akin to, let's say, if the recent Australian fire, in which you have to save the animals and you have to save the trees both. I think a lot of money is being spent in saving the employed people, the saving the, let's say, poor, the labor class, the worker class, and that should be done. But at the same time, if we don't take care of, let's say, the job creators, the entrepreneurs, and you really need to give some cash as help in these circumstances. Whereas what, let's say, out of these 2 lakh crores, the MSMEs have received some amount, but that is in the form of loans. It is not in the form of any cash help towards salaries, etc. Had that happened, maybe that much pain which got created in the system for the migrant workers would not have been the case. Maybe they would have, the factories would have taken note, or maybe the government could have proposed to the industry to create a very safe environment and ensure that all the workers are safe and healthy and well fed. And in these times of emergency, had this cash been given to the MSME sector as help, when the revenue side is impacted, when there is no sales happening, I think that would have done the same job, keeping the workers in the area where they are employed well fed, healthy, and safe. Industry should have been told to make those arrangements rather than government spending a lot of money in making sure that these workers are going to their places. Why? Because they are not being taken care of by their employers. Now, employers are also facing the pain. So, taking care of the employed and taking care of the employment creators together. And if employment creators are taken care of and they are made to take care of the employed people, I think today the industry would be running also at full capacity. Now that is going to be a challenge which I already spoke earlier. That is going to be a big challenge, getting these migrant workers back. Not only that, once they reach home, now everyone is concluding that we will have to live with this coronavirus. There is no way it is going to go away. Only way to fight this virus is that we build our own immunity, we build our own health, so that whenever it comes to us, we are able to fight and overcome it. There is no other way till the time we have a vaccine which is going to be effective. And the another challenge is that this virus is mutating so fast that by the time any vaccine is coming out, the virus itself has changed. So that's what I think is going to be a big challenge. Now, if that is a big, challenge to on the cure front, then once the people have gone to the villages, and once we know that anyway this is going to be with times getting spread to those villages, the question to be asked is, do we have enough healthcare systems in all these places where the migrant worker is today finding comfort and going home, and tomorrow when the virus reaches there, will the government have enough infrastructure to really treat them and make them healthy in those areas? Or are we just going to create another challenge in the future, which is in the space of healthcare? And that is what I see is going to be a bigger challenge. So one, you are losing the production because the people have gone home. Second, they have gone to now areas where the healthcare is not that good, or the arrangements, at least as of now, are not there. So we are going to be having a very difficult situation in the future. Had this package ensured that some help comes to MSME sector, which employs almost, I think, 12 crores of people, migrant workers may have been taken better care of by the employers, and the industrial production would not have gotten affected. And again, the industry areas and the cities that are having these industrial areas, we could have created a health ecosystem where we could have met the health challenges better, rather than sending these people to all the remote areas where it's going to be difficult to find good health care support and hospitals and the medicines and everything. So we are in for difficult time. I think we could have done better, but then again, I am sure that it is a tough time. It is a time of emergency. Whatever our honorable Prime Minister's office has done with by taking into consideration the trade deficit, etc., which is also at the highest level. We don't want that to impact the economy. But again, it's an emergency. The house is on fire. Our first strategy should be to spend money to control the fire. That should be the first step. Second should be to attend to people who are affected by the fire. Third step should be on how to rebuild the economy and our house. And fourth step should be how to get growth back into the system. So right now, money should be spent in areas that create direct impact in first controlling. So any money, say, if we are spending on direct healthcare or creating of hospitals, etc., again is going to create more jobs, etc. So money going to the labor that has been done in the package, some money is going, because, and food grains are also there. So government is distributing food grains, but in terms of cash to the job creators, nothing has come. What we are getting is loans. MSMEs are getting loans, that too without collaterals. Now if you look at the history of these non-performing assets, 2018, if I recall one of the papers, 15% of the non-performing assets got created in MSME space. So now we are giving loans again without collateral. Now there is a very good possibility that some of the old loans which had become NPAs, the new fresh loans could be used to repay the old loans. Now, is that a way of washing dirt out of the balance sheets? There is a possibility. And again, India hasn't had a great record of timely repayment of loans. Then this is what are my fears, that giving loans is not the best way. Maybe right now what was needed was some kind of cash into MSME's pockets to pay the salaries, retain the laborers, continue the production. I think that would have been a better strategy. But I think government has done whatever they have done based on maybe whatever the best expert advice they got. They have reasons to do what they have done. But I think the general feeling, not just mine, whatever I read and whatever I hear on media, is that they could have done more.
How far video conferencing will take away share of actual traveling and business meetings?
I think temporarily we are all enjoying this new evolution. It will continue for some time, but my view is that when telephone was invented, that did not replace personal meetings. When emails got invented, it did not replace personal meetings and travel. Skype came in, WhatsApp came in. A lot of video meetings were possible, but people never used. Of course, right now we don't have any option, so we are using it. But it's the fun of travel, and it's the fun of meeting people face to face. That being human is what we enjoy, and I don't think that part of our human lives is going to be taken away in the long run. It's going to come back. I think people are missing it already. Of course, uh, this phase will pass also. Temporarily we will be impacted. After we have overcome this pandemic also, it may take some time to get back, but I can tell you, the day people feel safe, they are going to be back with vengeance, and travel and everything is going to start, because humans love fun, and fun is not in these digital meetings. The fun is in traveling, meeting people, and connecting with them face to face. That is definitely going to come back. How much time it takes depends on how much time we take to overcome this pandemic and get back to this comfort zone of feeling safe. So that is definitely going to come back. Maybe 4 years, 5 years, maybe three, depends on how quickly we are feeling safe, and this thing is going to go away.
What are your suggestions to the business community?
Well, for current times, I think we need to, one, look at fixed costs, try to reduce the fixed costs. You have to get into the, you know, survival mode. You have the basic needs of the people are going to be different in this phase. I don't think discretionary spending is going to be much. So the global demand is going to be more on need-based factors. I personally think that there will be less spending on branded goods. People are going to be willing to spend only on the basic amenities and basic utility items for some time. So uh, if you can survive this current mode by keeping your costs in control and by remaining competitive, and then of course selling through digital platforms, because this is second thing is also which I will recommend is digital transformation of your business in this era, making sure that you are moving your products and services on the digital platform more than you were doing earlier. You're connecting with your customers more digitally than what you were doing earlier. And main thing is you remain competitive. See that you are doing safe business, because this is also a very dangerous era where a lot of bankruptcies are going to be taking place. Even the good companies are going to go bankrupt. So wherever you're giving credits, be very careful and ensure that your money comes back and you're not losing capital. So credit insurances are very, very important in the current time. Getting money on time is important. Freight rates have gone up, so look at your pricing and see that you uh, plan your movements properly. Give better service and rebuild your brand in current times, because this is also a phase where the brand needs to be rebuilt. Consumers are looking for reassurances. They are looking for your promise of reliability. They are looking for timely deliveries, and they are looking for good quality and less headaches. So, quality management and no complaints and focusing on zero defects and keeping the consumer happy, both in terms of price, quality, delivery, is important. And very, very important, because in this phase, people have very less tolerance levels. Your consumers will have less of tolerance towards any mistakes. So it is time that you must work with the utmost care and take care of no headache business for your customers and consumers, and create a very, very positive emotions, whether it is with regard to product or your service, or even getting payments. I'm seeing that if payments are getting delayed by a day or two or a week, uh, it's okay. People are in a very tough situation, so you have to understand. And so more of uh, you know uh, patience than normal is, I think, what is needed. And of course, keeping a very good eye on your monthly costs also. Second very important thing is, because work from home is becoming now a way of life, you have to train your employees how to work from home, and you have to also be able to measure their productivity, because what get measured gets rewarded, and what gets measured also gets corrected. So in this phase, you know you have to be also a lot patient with your workforce, because having flexible work times is one way. Allowing them to work on Saturdays, Sundays as per their convenience is one way, because working from home is having its own challenges, because there are times to go get groceries, and you have to manage how home as well as your work. So make sure that overall people put in those number of hours in a week, and not just that, the number of hours they are productive enough, and whatever efforts they are putting in is also getting eventually converted into your business. So lot of activity which is not getting you results is something that should come on your radar immediately. And this means that on a day-to-day basis you have to be very, very vigilant in terms of whatever activity that is happening in your marketing area, in your production area, in your finance area, accounts, your GST returns, etc. Everything is going and moving on time. Of course, we are discovering new ways of working from remote places, but then ensuring that deadlines are met, ensuring that customer is served well, ensuring that your activity is actually resulting in net value added. So that these are some of the things. And of course, every person working in your organization is following all the social distancing and safety rules, and is eating well and is well fed and is robust, because the only thing that you can do right now to fight this battle is keep yourself healthy and have enough vitamins and supplements in your body to fight this virus if it ever invades your body. There's no other way. It is going to happen one way, one day or the other, unless we are lucky to have a vaccine that works.
What are your suggestions to the government?
I think government has done whatever they have done so far, but I think they can do more. I have covered in some of the answers uh, previously on what government could have done more. You see, as I said, taking care of the employment creators is the first thing. Then, by infusing liquidity with the banks and asking banks to give loans without collateral is something that has to be done with utmost care because of the past. Because eventually, you see, the money, and I'm told that are almost 8.5 lakh crore, which is out of this package, 20 lakh crore, which has been deployed by the public sector banks with RBI. So this money is going back as liquidity, you know, for to the business community. Interest rates have been dropped, but I think the financial discipline has to be kept, and that is something which is my concern, that this money, one, should not go for repaying the old debt. This money should not get used in unproductive assets. So what government has to do, I think, is more of coming up with guidelines for managing these loans. But some portion of this could have gone to the MSME sector as cash towards salaries, or you know some kind of help which would have helped MSMEs keep the fire burning. Of course, one thing that they talk about, this is a big opportunity, when the supply chains are going to get disrupted. One thing that I keep reading and hearing a lot of people's views on media is about whether the global industry is going to shift to India, the supply chain, whether India will be the global manufacturing hub next after China. I think in that area, government needs to do a lot more. I hear a lot of people saying that, this is the time for entrepreneurs, Indian entrepreneurs, to go out and get the people, collaborators to India. It's not about that anymore. I think Indian entrepreneurs have proven themselves very well. They are able to manufacture the world-class quality. Today, the concerns are much different when it comes to getting investments or getting partners from abroad to come and set up manufacturing here. And those concerns are pretty much coming in the government domain, because people say that we are not very clear on India's policies, land reforms, labor reforms. Of late, some labor reforms have come in place in, I think, 3 states, which are again governed by BJP. But again, it's for 3 years. So what will happen after 3 years, nobody knows. Now, that is the very unclear policy framework which really scares people away from investment into India. So, and India needs to create jobs. We have so many people that are going to be looking for jobs. Our average age is what, 28 years or something, and then we have very highly employable people, English speaking, skilled workforce. If we do not take advantage of the current situation, then we are doomed forever, because this opportunity is not going to come again. And then if you see that who have done better, and this is not the first time actually that this opportunity has come. I mean, this opportunity came when the China Olympics and the Chinese industry phase closed down, and about 3-4 years are already passed, and this window has been there. Because when the industry started relocating out of China, it is not because of COVID the first time. Of course, it has accelerated it. But this thing started 3 to 4 years ago. Now, if you look who has been the beneficiary, it's been countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand. These are the countries that have, Malaysia even, which have actually benefited from foreign direct investment. Why these companies have not come to India? Japan has also gone out. You see, South Korea is shifting to Vietnam. Why it has not come to India in the last 3-4 years is a question that all our think tank, the government, the industry people need to ask. And the answer is not that these companies don't find talent in India. They know how Indians are talented. They also know that Indians can be trained. They are very trainable people. We have given quality in other sectors. They very well know. But what they are not comfortable about is this environment of uncertainty. The policies are not long term oriented. Anytime they fear that they can change, whether it is labor laws or something, labor reforms have actually, it's long overdue. We need to look at that and we need to accelerate that. Land is the highest price, I think, in India. So getting land, etc., for industry, some of the other countries, they are giving it for free. I think we have to do a lot more. The government has to do a lot more in increasing the comfort levels for people to bring in the investment so that employment can be generated. And right now is a big opportunity. If we lose this time frame, and I'm saying in next 60 days, something should be done. If we lose this time window, we will never get second opportunity. And that will be very, very unfortunate.
What is your message for the health sector entrepreneurs?
I think that sector is going to do well. We should look at actually opening up exports for some of the items which government has banned, because I am of the opinion that these items are very low technology items, and India has capacity to expand very fast and very quickly. So there should be no fear now. When it was banned, that was perhaps the best option. But today we have enough capacity, and today maybe 3-ply masks and all these the accessories that are needed to fight the battle against COVID in the health sector, PPE kits, etc. I think we should look at even allowing for exports, because the industry will expand capacities, and this is the time. There is an anti-China wave amongst the world. The buyers globally are looking at alternate sources, and if India could become one, we could take big advantage of global demand, and we could serve that demand and increase exports in that region. And that's only, I'm talking about the accessories meant for healthcare sector, but we can look at collaborations for even let's say the appliances. A lot of health appliances can be made here with collaborations, bringing in technology, etc. And this is a good time to set up shop here, not just for capturing the Indian market, but also for setting up a manufacturing hub in this area for exports. Biotechnology sector, I think, needs a big support, because that's for R&D, etc., which is typically very, very long gestation period. I think government has done enough for the IT sector, and you see what IT sector did with the very, very conducive the policy support from government. Pharma has not really received that kind of support yet. The biotechnology parks and those are another areas in which government needs to look, that they should come up with some very conducive policies for supporting, like capital or subsidies or concessional financing. See, our cost of finance is highest in the world. Most of the countries in the developed world are having very low cost of finance. India is at the very high level. At the end of the day, we need to produce goods competitively. If we are saying that, okay, the world is shifting its supply chain out of China, world is also looking at getting those products at similar prices. Now, if our cost of land, our cost of capital, our productivity of people, our labor law reforms restrict us, if they are not going to end in making our products competitively priced against China, I don't think anyone is going to come in and invest in India for setting up production base. And we will continue to manufacture. If you see any FDI in the Indian sector, it has happened only in, let's say, power or telecom sector. We've not had much FDI in manufacturing. So, this is one of my favorite examples of Samsung. They have invested in India. They have invested in China and in Vietnam. Uh, you see, a lot of MNCs, they come to India for getting access to the domestic market demand here. Nobody is really setting up a shop to export from here. There is a reason for that, and that is, you want to have a long-term clarity on policies. You want to have long-term competitive competitiveness on manufacturing, which are two factors basically needed to put the companies in comfort zone. Second thing is our currency is continuously getting devalued. So anybody who's coming in today bringing dollars is also looking at the normalized return to their dollar rupee, and rupees are continuously devaluing. The reason is we have no exports also. Uh, you know, Given the crude prices, which is the main import for India, being very, very favorable, our currency has been continuously devalued. Now that also plays against the FDI, because that reduces and diminishes the returns that FDI in India in manufacturing sector is. So these are some of the structural faults I think the government needs to uh, repair, and repair very fast. We don't have really time, because we have wasted, I think, last 3 to 4 years when this opportunity was available, and corona has only accelerated this opportunity. But then the country, I mean, recently, if you have read the news, Indonesia has been a big beneficiary of so many companies going and setting up shop there for manufacturing, and they've not come to India. Ask them, and you will see that those reasons are nothing different from perhaps what I have said. So these are the areas where government needs to do a lot more.
How far India
Again,
will be able to eat into export market of China?
India eating into the export market of China. I think uh, it will be tough. It will be tough unless what reforms I talked about, and unless we repair the structural defects that I said, that which increase our cost of manufacturing, which include cost of finance, cost of land, cost of power is now almost similar, but our productivity of Indian labor and the scale of manufacturing, we need to put up a scale which is not just for Indian demand, but it is for, let's say, at least the trade blocks that India is part of, where free trade is allowed. So we serve those countries. So the economies of scale, they have to be put up, and the cost of manufacturing in India, unless it becomes at par with China, uh, it is only, see, emotions don't run business. At the end of the day, people are going to look at prices, and you could be maybe a shade different, and that too for a reason, maybe because you have better service or your product is better in quality, people will pay some extra. But if you compare apples to apple, I don't think India is going to just eat into China's market, just because there is a temporary anti-China wave, because eventually any buyer anywhere in the world is going to look at what he is paying for the goods and services that he's buying. So, and one very big factor which is going to be very challenging for Indian exporters is that Chinese have huge capacities, and 35% of what they produce is for the world market. And if the world stops buying from them, the prices are going to crash. Chinese are going to crash those prices, and Indians will find it difficult to match those prices. At the end of the day, you know, let's see what happens. But then people do fall for, because everybody is going to fight for survival. If you are sitting in Germany and you have a Chinese buyer, a supplier, an Indian supplier, and Chinese supplier is 10% cheaper than you are going to think about it. That, because eventually you have to sell your goods somewhere. So we are all in this chain. Emotions right now say that yes, people will not buy Chinese goods, but at the end of the day, if Chinese goods are going to be cheaper and they are manufacturing good quality, China has built up their industry with a very robust strategy. Their goods are now no more of very, very cheap quality or etc. Indians and Chinese will have to compete on the same quality, same price. When it comes to price, we will have to repair these structural faults that we have in our system. The government in China and the industry work much closely than we do in India. You know, you see these international exhibitions, etc. The government is funding so many of these manufacturers from China to travel and to set up shops abroad to promote their goods. You know, selling products ex stock from Europe, Chinese goods. There is so much of concessional financing. There are a lot of hidden benefits that Chinese industry has. India has also, but we need to see where we can do more, because our cost of finance is very, very prohibitive and our productivity is less. Our land costs, our capital cost is high. Our quality also needs improvement. In some sectors we have accomplished it, but in a lot of sectors we need to do that. And our economies of scale, they need to be, if not at par, but at least at some comparison. And these are some of the things that we will have to ensure. I think we have enough talent, human talent in India, but little bit in creation of conducive environment is what we need. So really take a a respectable share from China away.
Any other important point or highlight you may like to share in the current scenario?
Oh yeah, that's one of the thoughts that really comes to my mind is whether current coronavirus is a problem, or the humans have become problem for this planet. Because we have, if you see the human history, 100 years ago, even USA was a poor country. Earth has been in existence for about 4.5 billion years. And if you take 4.5 billion years and compress it into 1 year, 144 years is 1 second. And if you see the human progress, it has really taken place in the last 200 years. And if 4.5 billion years, which is the life of Earth, is taken as 1 year, then humans are born at 11:59 a.m. on 31st December. And there are, I think, 30 million species on this earth. Humans are only 1% of the species that ever existed on this earth. But look at the damage done by any species to this mother planet Earth. I think humans have created so much of global warming, and we've been talking about global warming. I think the first time people talked about global warming, which is recorded 1930s, and we are talking about holes in the ozone. So, I mean, these are some of the thoughts that come to mind, that the nature has sent lot of warning signals to humanity in the form of earthquakes, famines. We have had hurricanes, volcanoes, tsunamis, and a lot of human lives have been lost. And people have talked about global warming, and people talked about taking care of the environment and including the environment in our progressive activities of production, etc., in human progress. But we have never done it. Humans have really polluted the environment. We have consumed the resources mindlessly for personal greed, and focus too much on GDP growth. Come to think of it, we have also invaded the space of other species. In the last, I think, 10 years, I was reading that there is more than 1 million species which are going to become extinct because of human activity. And when we invade space of other species on Earth, these pandemics are only a way of those species trying to protect themselves, and maybe You see, we call it mother nature. So nature is a mother. For mother, all children are same, right? So if mother has humans as one child, and this one child is creating so much of havoc and destroying the environment, sometimes I think it is not corona that is a problem. It is the humans that have become a problem, and corona is only a way that mother nature is trying to destroy the human race and redeem itself, and it will redeem itself. I don't think humans have over the period of time felt that they have become indestructible, and they are going on mindlessly destroying the environment. So much plastic in oceans, and so much air pollution, so much of water pollution, so much of solid waste. We can't go on like this. And I think now that everyone is in a lockdown condition, this is the time for humans to think and reflect whether we should change our ways of producing the way we have been producing. Should we not take into inclusion the care for environment? Should we not include people existing all over the globe as part of the progress? I think it is time. Otherwise, you know, we are already having a virus which has been continuously mutating, and that is AIDS virus, HIV virus. No vaccine has been able to come and control that. All that we are able to do is devise drugs that are prolonging the life. This virus, whatever I read, is in that form. It is also mutating. So whether this is the second virus that the mother nature has sent to wipe out the human race, this is one thought I like to leave you with. And maybe it's time for all of us to think and reflect, and at least start taking care of the environment and the people and the society, so that whatever activity we do, we make sure that we we don't cater to our greed. It is only the need, and we are truly making a positive impact on making this planet a better place, not just for us, but for all the other species around us.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.